Winter is finally over and summer is officially here. It is May, and there is so much now for us to do and enjoy in our gardens. The days are getting longer and warmer, and there's less to little chance of frost left in our gardens, which means that we can start to grow and sow and enjoy so many more things now as the year moves on. It can still sometimes feel a little bit daunting to know what to sow, what to grow and what to do in our gardens, especially when it starts to get a little bit warmer and we feel like we should be doing a little bit more. But what should we be doing and when should we be doing it? Well, Gardening by the Almanac or the lunar calendar can really help us to know what to grow and when to grow it. It can also help us in terms of pruning, taking cuttings, and starting some other plants off as well. So follow along on this video with a gardening midwife as we talk about how to garden by the lunar or the almanac calendar for the month of May. Hi, and thank you so much for tuning in to Gardening Midwife and Lunar Gardening, or gardening using the almanac for the month of May. May is a wonderful month. We are moving out of spring and into summer. There's no definitive cut-off and it changes every single year. We've started May with a bit of a heat wave, but it's going to soon cool down again slightly and feel a bit more spring-like, but likely going to end on hopefully a high, feeling very much like summer. There's so much to do in the gardens at the moment and so many plants and vegetables that we can now start to sow that originally wouldn't have liked those slightly differing cold kind of spells that we were having in March and April, that are actually going to love being sown and starting to get growing in the month of May. So gardening by the moon calendar means that we're taking advantage of the change in the moisture within the soil. Now the moisture is going to change slightly, yes, because of the rain, but also because of the gravitational pull from the moon. That's what controls things like the rise and the fall of the tide, and it will also control the pull and the drawdown of water in the soil. So that means that at different types of the month, it will be better for us to sow things that are going to develop below the ground or above the ground, and also give us a bit of a dormant period, which is perfect for doing things like taking cuttings and pruning. So we start the month of May in upward growth, and this is mainly due to the new moon coming into the first quarter. The waxing of the moon during this period is known as a rise in vitality and will really help us to grow and sow things that are going to develop really well above the ground. Things that I love to do in May and are perfect for during this phase is to sow things like our bedding plants, creating beautiful hanging baskets that are going to bring a beautiful colour to our gardens all summer long, and this is a perfect time to do it. Now, this period started actually in April, at the end of April, and will be coming through until the 4th of May. It will then restart up on the 27th of May at the end of the month and run until the beginning of June. It's also a great time to start to sow one of my favourite vegetables to grow, sweet corn. So sweet corn does take up a little bit of room, so you might not want to grow this unless you have an allotment or you have a large garden. But if you do, I would highly recommend growing it. I actually really enjoy to grow the big sweet corns as well as the little mini ones as well. You get quite a few per plant if you're lucky, and they are absolutely delicious. There is nothing more rewarding than going and pulling a corn on the cob off of the plant, bringing it home and eating it. It's amazing. But sweet corn are really fussy. They don't like it if the temperatures are dropping too low at night. So coming into May, especially during this new moon to first quarter, is the perfect time for us to start to sow those seeds into the ground. May, with its temperatures that are a little bit more consistent, also start to open us up to so many other things to grow. Another thing that you can grow, and you can grow if you only have a really small amount of space, are things like beans and peas. Now you can grow these literally in a small little pot and just put a few of them around the edge, and they will soon grow and give you some really beautiful harvests. Now you can obviously get quite tall beans that will grow to kind of 1.82 meters high, which you might want to then obviously put some support so they take up a little bit more room. But you can also grow mange tous and peas and French beans that grow on dwarf plants that will only come to a few inches high and will do perfectly in a pot, on a patio or on a balcony, and give you some amazing harvests. I really recommend having a little look for some slightly different varieties. French beans don't have to be green. You can get some really lovely purple and yellow podded French beans. What a great way to introduce different kind of colours and varieties into your dinner and your food. It also makes it a little bit more exciting for children as well if you're gardening with children. The same with beans. Yes, you can get your runner beans, but you can also get runner beans that will have completely different kind of coloured pods and beans inside them. There is one called yin yang, which literally the little bean itself has got the yin yang symbol within it. It looks absolutely brilliant. You can also dry it and then use it throughout the rest of the year, and it really adds something a little bit different into whatever dish you're going to be making. So whilst the sweet corn doesn't mind the May temperatures that are just slightly cooler in the evening but not freezing, things like our squashes will not like this. Now, squashes can be pumpkins, they can be butternut squash. There are so many different types out there. One of my favourites is crown prince. But you can also start to grow some of your courgettes. However, because of those slightly dropping temperatures, you will need to start these indoors. Now, if you don't have the space to start them indoors, don't panic. That's absolutely fine. Just start them off outdoors next month. They will still grow, be absolutely wonderful, but don't risk getting them caught by the frost as it will completely destroy the plant. If you do want to get them started off inside, then all you need to do is just get a small little tub with some compost and pop the seed in. A little top tip from me is that when you're putting the seeds in, is to lie them on their side. The seeds are kind of shaped a bit like an almond, so if you lie them flat, there's more chance that the water can collect on top of the seed and make it rot. Whereas if you place them on their side or sitting upwards, then there's less chance of that happening and you've got greater success with germination. So from the 5th to the 12th of May, we move into our next phase. And that's from the first quarter to the full moon. Now, this again is a great time for putting things into the ground that are going to develop above the ground, but this is a really bad time for putting things in that are going to develop below the soil. So really try to resist the urge of sowing anything like carrots and beetroots during this period. A little bit later, absolutely perfect. But right now, you might just find that the germination just isn't as good in your plants if you're sowing them during this period. So avoid the beginning of May for growing any of your root vegetables. Now, if you're someone like me and you love your brassicas, things like your purple sprouting broccoli, normal broccoli, cauliflowers, or your Brussels sprouts for Christmas, this is your last chance to sow them from seed. Now, if you don't want to sow from seed, you can buy them as plug plants from your local garden centre, and that is equally a fabulous way of growing your own. However, if you did want to give them a go from seed, then this is your last chance for getting them going. Otherwise, you might find that they just don't develop in time to give you any kind of food harvest. Now, I said about growing carrots, and I love growing carrots. There are so many different varieties. I very rarely actually grow a typical orange carrot like what you'd find in your supermarket. If I do grow an orange one, it will normally be my Atlas carrots, which are small little round balls. They're absolutely delicious and perfect little snack size. But otherwise, I tend to go with what is actually the traditional ones, which are more kind of purple and whites and yellows and taste absolutely brilliant. They also add so much more variety to your plate. If you're, for example, roasting some carrots, having a tray with yellows and purples and white carrots that are all roasted looks so much more appealing than just having the orange ones, in my opinion. And if you are wanting to grow your own, from the 13th to the 20th of May is the perfect time to get them in. This is when we have the full moon to the last quarter, and this is when we'll get that real good drawing down energy, which is perfect for root vegetables. And the good news is, in May is perfect for sowing so many of them. So carrots, parsnips, beetroot, spring onions, swede, turnips are all perfect for going in the soil right now, and they're going to germinate and get off to a much better start if you get them in during this phase. Now, if you also follow along on my Instagram page, you will see that I love to grow flowers as well as growing my own fruit and vegetables. And one of the great things in May is that it's a perfect time to get going with some things like bulbs. Now, a lot of us think about bulbs as being a kind of flower that comes on in the springtime, like the daffodils behind me, and we tend to sow kind of in late autumn or over the winter periods. However, you can also get some amazing bulbs that come on during the summer. Things like your lilies, dahlias and gladioli all look absolutely stunning, help pollinators come into your growing space and just give them so much variety. So from the 13th to the 20th of May is the perfect time to get those bulbs into the soil. Now you can create yourself a pot onto a small patio or a balcony if you have a smaller growing space, or get them directly into the soil, into your garden or allotment if you're growing there instead. Do you want to grow your own flowers but live in a rented property? Don't have a garden? Or maybe live in a flat? Well then, growing in pots might be the way for you. Begonias have beautiful, beautiful flowers. These ones are going to tumble all the way down the side to my pot, and in the middle I'm going to put 3 lovely different lily bulbs. All you need is a pot, fill it with some compost, get your bulbs and just pop them nice and deep into the soil. So there we have it. My pot is all potted on. The good thing is that these bulbs are going to come back year after year after year. So this little bit of time is going to have years and years worth of enjoyment to come out of it. So if you followed me or followed these videos for a little while, you know there's always a dormant period in the month. And in May, that's from the 20th to the 26th. And during this period, you do not want to be sowing or trying to grow any fruit, veg or plants. The sap is going to be really, really low at this point. There's not a lot of energy there for getting that germination going, and it is best just to take that time to enjoy that dormancy. Now, in my videos for earlier in the year, I would tell you that this is a time to take note of what's going on around you, rest like nature is resting. But sometimes it feels a little bit different in May, and it's because there's so much going on in the garden. So if you've got your potatoes in the ground already, you might want to start to get ready to earth those up slightly. Now, earthing up of potatoes is really simple and easy. All you need to do is that when you start to see those little shoots starting to stick through the ground or through the compost that you've got them in a pot, you just want to earth them up, so put more earth on top of them. This will stunt their kind of upward foliage growth and encourage them to create more potato tubers below the soil. So during this dormant period is the perfect time to do tasks like this. Earthing up your potatoes. You can prune any clematis that have flowered and finished. Getting supports in place for your plants that are already in the garden, supporting your sweet peas as they start to climb, and otherwise just having a look at some general garden maintenance. I hope that this video has given you a few ideas as to what you can get going and doing during the month of May in your garden. If you've enjoyed this video, please do click on the subscribe button, as it really does help for me to continue to create these videos for you. If you want to see more from the gardening midwife, i.e. Holly, then please do also check out my other channels on Instagram and TikTok, where you'll see more of what I'm getting up to throughout the month and the rest of the year.